Voodoo, well, the Lucy Letby verdict came in yesterday afternoon, and as we probably all knew, she's as guilty as sin. So they found her guilty of 7 murders as opposed to manslaughter. She was up for 13. 6 of them they couldn't decide on beyond all reasonable doubt, and that was the salient point here. It's beyond reasonable doubt. I mean, it's BS. She did them all. Let's have it right, And she tried to attempted murder as well. I think there was quite a few counts of that as well. Somebody tell me in the comments, but I have been following it, and I think I mentioned it in one of my lives, but I didn't want to say too much until the verdict was in, obviously, because you just stand to make yourself look like a right plonker, don't you? The great YouTube crime channel, Stephanie Harlow, the American lady, she did a really good 3 or 4 part series of the Letby murder trial and this, that and the other, the proceedings up to the trial, and she sort of dissected it earlier in the year that I watched. Also, obviously, because I'm over here, you can get on the thing, get on the computer, bring up the Daily Mail and whatever, anything that anybody's saying is on here. There's a good channel on YouTube, Crimes Courtroom. He's another one that's followed it sort of insidiously and dissected it moment by moment and blow by blow. And I do believe he actually went to some of the trial, which is rather him than me. I mean, that's beyond the call of duty, isn't it, really? But a number of things occurred to me about this bleeding woman. She's one they've caught, but to be fair, I think most of us know, not as bad as this, but there is quite a lot of sort of God complex going on within the National Health, isn't there? There is! I mean, I've encountered it myself. I mean, or observed it in things in my lifetime. I'm not saying to this degree. I mean, obviously, this is the bleeding far end of the far end, isn't it? Obviously, this menace here. What did they describe her as? A narcissistic psychopath. She's definitely. And I think the copper said, "Can you describe Lucy Letby?" And she said beige. And I thought, oh no, not another beige narcissist. There's something about narcissism and beige, isn't there? I suppose beige is what they just drift in with. Oh, we're just vanilla, aren't we? Just here we are. Just plain. Look, nothing to see here. Move along. And I was reading in the comment section during the trial, it was predominantly by males saying, oh, she could never have done that. Look how pretty she is. They're fitting her up, they are. It's them, yeah, it's the doctors fitting her up. Yes, yeah. Anyway, let's have a listen. Sharp girl to be in a mock.
And it didn't go unnoticed. 4 consultants at the unit raised their concerns to hospital bosses when they realised every time a baby inexplicably collapsed or died, there was an explanation that Letby was always on shift.
I'm not being funny, but that's a bit bingo, isn't it? Slam dunk, really,
It wasn't until a year after her first attacks,
Full
in
House.
July 2016, that hospital bosses removed her from her role and involved the police.
Yeah, well,
she was arrested 2 years later.
Right.
When officers searched her home, they found a post-it note where she wrote, "I'm evil. I did this." And a diary where she marked the date of her attacks with the initials of her victims.
I mean, is it pertinent? But she did live a really sort of shambolic life. Her home was a tip. Her bedroom was a tip. It was like a very messy sort of 13-year-old bedroom, if you know what I mean, rather than a sort of mid to late 20s professional lady. It was teddy bears thrown around, clothes everywhere, messy, the typical sort of fairy wings and glitter and all that BS that they have nowadays. As I say, even though she was mid to late 20s, emotionally she was like 13. She was an only child, probably spoilt, wretched, probably didn't socialise properly. She definitely was sexually sort of retarded, if you know what I mean, because her behaviour was all she needed to do. Well, maybe she was just a murderer, I don't know. But there seems to be something sort of psycho or pseudo-sexual going on in the background of this, because she seemed to be taking out on the babies or using the babies as a way of getting attention from this male doctor, who shall not be named on account of the fact he's been married, who did tuck in a few times. I mean, let's have it right, he did, She was in love with him. She had a crush on him like a 12-year-old or, like I said, emotionally immature. And he was happily married, but he was sort of, he was dabbling, let's put it that way, which it's best not to dabble with a psychotic bleeding narcissist, isn't it, really? So there is some sort of sexual repression that's redirected, or maybe the babies were just, the font of whatever, the way that she got his attention. Is it? It's a desperation, but you can't put yourself in the mind of a bleeding nutter like that, can you? She's a crank. I mean, she could have got herself a boyfriend every which way. So the fact that she never really did have a boyfriend, there's no boyfriend's been mooted, not even childhood, college, no. The only sort of hint of a boyfriend was this doctor that was happily married, and she had a crush on. He used to give her lifts home, and they went to London and stayed in London for a weekend together, didn't they? So there's something weirded out going on with her, pseudo-sexually. That's all I'm saying. The other thing, I mean, does this even look like,
but Letby never admitted
is it just me, or does that look like a professional woman's sort of, this is what I'm going to write, I'm professional.
Guilt.
Yeah. They told me that there would be a lot more deaths and that I've been linked to somebody else there for a lot of them. Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in mortality rate? Yes. Okay, so tell me about that.
She's one of those talks without actually moving her mouth to hers. Yes, it's an art, it's just, she's trying to look like pouty sport little girl there. Just BS. Anyway, the main fact of it is that she was flagged up by the paediatric consultant and other doctors who went to the just as beige hospital management that actually had no knowledge of medicine at all, that all poo-pooed the doctors and the consultants and made them write a letter to her, to this Lucy Letby, to apologise for them even daring to accuse her, when really, if you look at the law as it stands, anybody that goes to, in a child-centred environment, anybody that goes to a manager, right, with a child safeguarding concern has to be reported to the child safeguarding expert, who's always one. It's like you've got to have a first aider, you've got to have a child safeguarding person on your team. So they should have immediately reported it to the child safeguarding, who is incumbent then by law to report it to the police. So had that protocol been followed, which is mandatory everywhere that there are children, schools, even if it's a swimming lesson, swimming club, or an acrobatics club, or an after-school bleeding tennis club, or whatever, brownies, cadets, playgroups, anywhere that there are children, it has to be a child safeguarding appointed employee. As I said, like you got a first aider, you get a child safeguarding person. And that person, they are the ones that go to all the meetings and do all the training and know what they have to do, know what they have to look out for. And all the forms have to be filled in. And then they have to, on the first instance, they have to, by law, right, contact the police, child protection of the police. Yes, they do. So had that been done by this hospital, which wasn't it wasn't a hole in the wall place, it was a major district general hospital. Wasn't it for just women and babies, wasn't it? Was it? Oh no, it's Chester. No, that was another one. Scrub that. So I mean, it wasn't a sort of hole in the wall event. They should have known the safeguarding procedures. So the very fact that they didn't go through them makes me think, maybe the people that check out hospitals need to go and check out that hospital. Do you get me? Is it Ofsted for hospitals? They got somebody, haven't they? They got someone that goes around and checks them. Because what is it that the manager, I'm not suggesting that, I think the managers were probably thinking, no, she didn't do it. But they definitely didn't want anybody sniffing around, did they? Makes you think, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm not suggesting they were complicit. They were complicit in their silence. That's the way I'm saying the managers were complicit. But why be silent when, you're just following a protocol? Someone's reported a concern about children, and you had that onto the relevant employee, who then goes through to the child protection, which is the protocol. That is what you're supposed to do. No one can say, oh, well, you're shit stirring, you're making a whole hill of beans out of nothing. No one can say that, because it's set out in law. That's what you have to do, and you're just following that. So why didn't they? That's kind of concerning. Well, it is to me anyway. Yeah, but I mean, she'd be in prison for ever and ever and ever.
I think we don't just notice as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
I wouldn't let her walk my bleeding dog, to be honest, but there you go. Crazy is as crazy does. Oh well, She'll be gob soup for the rest of her life, won't she, Vutu viewers? Bye-bye now.